Today, we're going to live stream a comparison between the Samsung QN90D and the Sony Bravia 7. Although I have the Bravia 9 here, the focus really is between the 7 and the QN90D because no one's cross-shopping a $1,400 TV versus nearly $3,000 Bravia 9. But if you're curious, then it is there, and we'll compare that later. And we'll also have a reference monitor below that as well. And right now, what we're going to do is reset the Bravia 9 because there were some complaints that maybe because it's calibrated, it was being held back last time, where the Bravia 7 demonstrated that it was a little bit better than the Bravia 9 in shadow detail. Yes, we're going to start with the PS5 Pro gaming comparisons, different modes, and we'll probably jump into Jennifer Gala's content, HDR, challenging HDR, as well as some sports content, and lastly, shadow detail in movies to see how they compare to the Bravia 9 and a reference monitor. OLED TVs, are mini LEDs there yet? All right, hey everyone. How's everyone doing? Everyone loves my hat, everyone loves my small head, and there are the TVs. Oh wait, I forgot to put labels. I'm like, oh, it's so obvious to me which TV is which. So if you caught the intro, we're going to start off with PS5 Pro gaming comparison. Black Myth Wukong, one of Sony's most popular exclusives, I guess, this year, although it hasn't benefited from the remastered version. This is still the original version. And after a lot of comparisons with the PS5 and the PS5 Pro on all the TVs, direct plug into the Sonys and all that stuff, at 4K 30, which I think is its best mode, high quality 4K 30 mode, identical. So don't bother if you're looking at Black Myth Wukong as an excuse to get the PS5 Pro. Okay, while you guys figure out which T is which, I'm going to label everything, and then maybe I can catch some of your questions and say hello to you all. Already I'm like, oh no, I'm running late, and I don't even have my act together. All right, so let me bring all the chats up. All right, so hi everyone. Hey, Getty, making sure audio is good. Oh my gosh, wait. Lisa, where have you been? It's been so long. You don't think we don't miss you. Hope all is well with you. And Siraj, I caught your question, so hopefully you saw my answer. And hey, Getty, thank you everyone for coming by. And if I haven't said hello, I'm sure I will. Let me add the quickie in terms of labeling. So we get it right here. Okay. So the Bravia 7 is up here. There we go. And QN90D is below. And if the 90D looks a little bit smaller, it is because the 90D is a 55-inch, but between 55 and 65, the performance is identical. Brightness is the same, and it shouldn't be an issue, just size. It's not like in the past where you had larger sizes with ADS Pro panel and the smaller sizes that had a VA panel. This year, QN90D, all the sizes are VA panels, I believe. Well, at least 55 on up, they're all VA panels. Okay, so here we have PS5 Pro. Let me show you guys the settings. If you notice, there's a slight brightness difference, and it's not so much that the QN90D is brighter per se. That's just how it is. The Sony wants to go for that HGIG filmic look, but let's go through the settings real quick. And let me see. Yeah, yep. It does look brighter, doesn't it? But it's not. Here, let me try to find a place. Here we go. But it's just how they are. And you'll see why. We could play with that. So let me go through the settings real quick. Make sure we're in game mode. Oftentimes, the TVs may not be in game mode, so let's double check that. Here we go, we are in game mode. So this is the Sony Bravia 7 in game mode. And standard, I think, is its best mode as far as image quality is concerned. Let's pop that back up again. Okay, so, FPS, this is just way too lifted. But hey, I guess if you're paying FPS, you want to see every shadow detail, every corner. RTS is slightly darker, I think, a bit more contrasty. and standard is a good balance. Now, as far as the actual settings themselves, here we are, game. Make sure that your content type is set to game, then you'll have the lowest input lag. If you do not do this and you go to video images, input lag is significantly worse. Actually, you know what? Let me do that right now so you guys can see. At video, you just set it to video, right? And you forget to go into game mode or for whatever reason, look at the lag difference. So what's that, like a second? So it's not playable, right? But if you make sure you set it to game, content, and all is well in the world, right? All right, yeah, so now it looks the same. Maybe within a frame, but visually they look very similar. Oops, let's get to the TV settings. There we go. Picture setting, there we go. Okay, so why did it say professional mode? Shouldn't it say game mode? The heck? Oh, that's why. Okay, game mode, picture setting. All right, okay, now brightness. So you have an option. This is gradation preferred. Maybe brightness preferred might get a little bit brighter. So I'll put it on brightness preferred to see if it more closely matches the QN90. And then the rest is pretty much default. The only thing that isn't default, I love local dimming and medium, so that's default. Peak luminance high is also default and also my preference. Color, this is where a lot of people, it starts off, that's the default, live color. But come on, you're gaming, I think going to medium gives it a little bit of pop. It's very subtle and it's not like it changed a lot, right? Expert one is default. And if you want to make sure your input lag is at its lowest, keep everything off. I take smooth gradation off. Motion, all of that is off, right? Just leave it in game mode and let it do its thing because it will add input lag. Now for the Samsung, let's see here. It is in game mode and game motion plus is off, which gives it the fastest input lag, right? So if you look at the very bottom, it says input lag is fastest. If I go to level 2, input lag is only fast. Level 1 is faster, and then off is fastest. Now, let's see. As far as the settings, actually, let's go back to that. So you guys can see the differences. So if you go to the game settings, game picture expert, basic is kind of like the HGIG mode. If you turn it off, it's a lot brighter. It goes even brighter, right? And then advanced is, I don't know, something else, but I'm going to leave it at basic because it most closely matches the Sony in terms of white point. So you have a lot of flexibility on the Samsung. This is why they call it more of a gaming TV, because you have some options to play with to get the different brightness levels you want, right? But we're not going to dive too deep into that. That's its own gaming video. Now, what I wanted to show you real quick is how if you have it at fastest input lag on the Samsung and on the Sony, we do this. Let's just turn around real quick. Very similar. It feels like the smoothness. Now we're at 4K 30 quality mode, so you guys can see. Let me turn this up. Okay. Let's go to the settings so you guys can see what settings I'm in. The most popular setting on Black Myth is really quality mode, right? It gives you the best image quality. Most importantly, input lag is the lowest in quality mode. If you go to performance mode, the input lag generated by the frame generation to artificially get to 60 FPS, not worth it. I played with it. Yes, it looks smoother. Actually, let me show you. I don't know if you guys are going to see how smooth it is, but it's quite a bit smoother. I don't know if you can catch this, but there's input lag in order to get here. So it looks nice, but action scenes, fight scenes, I need the lowest latency I can get. So instead, what I'm going to do is show you that Samsung has something similar in its Game Motion Plus to give you that smoothness without the hit to input lag, or less of a hit, right? There is a slight hit, but is it noticeable? And we're going to look at that as well. Okay, so, and another trick I'm going to use is, okay, so I'm looking right here. They're both pretty similar, right? And let me see, check your comments. I'm going to go through Game Motion Plus 1 and 2 because essentially this is kind of like a QN90D review. We know what the Sony is capable of. Not many people know why they should get the Samsung QN90D for gaming in general. All right, so question, is the Samsung Q90 and Samsung Q90D same or not? Q90D. The Q, if there is no N, it's not the same. N means Neo QLED, right? So QN90D means it's a mini LED TV. It's their top tier TV, so you only have 3 mini LED models, Suraj. You have the 95D, the 90D, and the 85D. And the 85D is very close to the 90D. If you've seen Brian's video, they're so close that he says for the money, he recommends the other one. And yeah, that 90D looks really beautiful. We're going to go through a lot of content. Subtle differences, but definitely. Do you keep local dimming medium on game mode? Yes, I do. Now you can play with that. I like it the best because it gives me the specular highlights without lifting the blacks really at all. On the QN90D, local dimming is on high. I think that gives me the best contrast and it matches the Sony very well. And we're going to go through the settings after I demonstrate Game Motion Plus real quick because a lot of people are wondering. All right. Kind of lifted on the Samsung. I think it's because the two, yeah, and let me take it back. Yes, the Samsung lifts the shadow a little bit more in game mode for whatever reason. That's its look. And this is where you separate yourself. There's only so much you could do with the Q90D to lower that black level because that's its native look. If you go into shadow detail, I can make it probably look a bit less lifted. And actually, let's play with that while we're on it. And then I'll jump into Game Motion Plus for you guys. So oftentimes, if you're struggling with the setting, so let's do that right now, and you don't know where to go, oh, you know what, how do I get the Samsung to look like the Sony? And in something like this where I'm really matching motion, I do want them to look as similar as possible. And so we can do that, go into the picture settings, expert settings, go down to, so HDR tone mapping at static is its most accurate. But if you're curious, active makes it slightly brighter, not as big of a difference as on an OLED, the QD OLED, right? All right, so shadow detail. If I take it down, see, it kind of makes it dark, but not in a good way, right? Like now it's kind of, I'll keep it on. Yeah, if I go to -1, it actually matches the Sony. No, it makes it less bright. I'll just keep it at 0. But you can play with that. And this color booster, I think, is important. Now, for this game, I don't think it's necessary. Well, let me see. If you notice the green on the Sony is a bit darker, what happens if I go to low? Not much of a difference here, so I'll keep it on off. In certain content, you'll want it on low or high even. Okay, now let's talk about Game Motion Plus. So here in its fastest input lag, you notice that the two are very similar. The question is, how much more latency do I add if I go to Game Motion Plus level 1 or 2? And what does it add to image quality, right? So if I'm spinning him around, look at the detail in the stone paving, right? Very similar. It's a little bit blurred around the edges, the farthest edge, because it moves faster. Physics being what it is. Okay, so let's change it to Game Motion Plus level 1 real quick to see if there's any improvement to that clarity, that smoothness that you would get in 4K 60, but you don't want because of that additional latency. All right, we are now at level 1. Now, level 1, you have to remember, it adds a bit of smoothness, but your judder and your anti-blur are both still at 0. If you go into the settings and add 1 to either blur or judder, anti-blur, anti-judder, you're going to jump to 2. But let's see if it's any smoother perceptually. I know you guys don't catch this on YouTube, so I'm going to slow. Here we go. I'm going to slow it even further. it's it's a touch smoother on the Samsung. I mean, just a touch, right? How about input lag? Looks the same. And I know you guys are 4K 30 on YouTube, so any differences is so minor, right? If only YouTube allows me to stream in 4K 120, then you'll really see the difference. Okay, Game Motion Plus 1 is barely noticeably slightly smoother, but if you really want to do it, you got to go to level 2. I mean, that's where the big difference is. I'll show you guys. All right, level 2. And I'll show you what the settings are at level 2. Oh, let me see, is that too bright? Can you guys see the settings? Ah, good enough. All right. So blur reduction at 10, judder at 10. Some people prefer blur 10, judder 0 on 4K 30. Other people prefer all at 10. I'm going to put it all at 10 so you guys can see. Because I think it actually looks pretty good. All right, let's spin this guy around. And it definitely is smoother. Not as smooth as 4K 60, but the flowers, and I'm looking at the daisies here, right? The detail of the yellow flowers. On the Sony, when it's spinning, it's a touch blurred. Now, static, it looks identical. The minute it starts moving, it is definitely smoother on the Samsung. And this is why people want Game Motion Plus. It's not quite 4K 60, but it's definitely closer than what you had before. And let's look at the input lag. Let's get the guy to jump one more time. Technically, it's adding almost 2 frames, right? I'd say between 8 and 14 milliseconds because I slowed it down and tested it before. But that 8 to 14 milliseconds, not noticeable at all. See? So go ahead and beat yourself up with Game Motion Plus level 2. I think it's fine. And the Sony looks good. The only thing is there's less game features to play with. And so with the Sony, you get the fastest input lag, great image quality, slightly deeper blacks, but there's not much there to play with, right? The minute you start adding smoothness and stuff like that, there's no guarantee that the input lag is going to be this good. And honestly, the Sony does look good, but I do like the QN90D just because I have that option. I mean, this, not quite 4K 60, but it is a good compromise, definitely. All right, let me see what questions you guys got. And so, the QN90D. Bravia 7 is a great TV for console gaming. This is PS5 Pro, but since it's going through a splitter, it is not directly giving the Sony Bravia 7 any special metadata. Some have said that if I connected the PS5 Pro directly to the Sony, then the HDR tone mapping is slightly better. I don't see it. I did side-by-side comparisons. I tried to run my PS5 Pro and PS5 running the same game and scene, but they wouldn't let me. They wanted me to buy another license for Black Myth to do that. I'm like, you know what, it's not even worth showing. It's the same. And then now I have a second game. So take my word for it. I mean, maybe you have to have an OLED, but on the Bravia 7, it looks as good as on the QN90 and vice versa. I don't think it's a big deal. Now, if Sony added special motion settings between the PS5 and the Bravia 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever, hey, might be worth it, but I haven't heard anything about that yet. All right, let's see what you guys got here. What game is this? This is the most popular game, one of the most popular games of the year, Black Myth Wukong. Oh, the action in this game, it is phenomenal. I mean, I'm kind of stuck in this stage. I still need to get some strength into this guy to get past this boss. But the graphics, the fight scenes, the fight motions, and the ladder to get your skills. And if you screw up, you go back to the ladder and you change everything, you try it again. I just love the options available. Yeah, Black Myth Wukong is definitely a good game if you like action, fantasy type stuff like this. All right. PS6 in 2026, I'm hearing more like 2028. I mean, now that they have a refresh, we're probably 2 to 3 years. So yeah, I'm not even going to predict 2026, maybe 27, maybe 28, around there. Okay. So who is the winner, Nazra? I've spent all morning getting these TVs ready. Let me know, right? We can have that discussion today as well. I honestly don't know who the winner is. Is no Dolby Vision on Samsung a deal breaker? It is not for me. Now, some people swear by it. I don't know why, but yes, in certain movies, specifically, very specifically, Dolby Vision does help. For example, in 1917, there is a scene, I'll show you that scene, where on the LG, in HDR, there is color banding without Dolby Vision. There's simply not enough color information, and the LG G4 just doesn't resolve it as well. You give it Dolby Vision and it's very clean, right? There's more metadata, more color information for the G4 to render everything. So Dolby Vision slightly looks better on the G4 than non-Dolby Vision, but that's a very specific scene. Now, if you look at every movie that has HDR and Dolby Vision, good luck finding those differences. But because we're reviewers, we catch those differences when we see a flaw in one version, and this is something that Classy found. Good job, Classy. And so that's that one scene in 1917, and I think there may be one or two others, right? But again, I don't think it's a big deal, because I didn't even notice that until he says, no, stop here. Oh, okay, I see it now. So, just so you guys know, yes, it may help in certain scenes and movies, but I have a hard time finding those scenes. Okay. Still rocking the Q95C. It's only a year old. Of course, it is a great TV. Good job, Steve. And it's gaming top notch. All right. So let me go. And I think if there's no other questions about the game mode, we're going to move on to HDR. Which one is better for the brighter room? They are both very bright, Siraj. So, but we're going to test that. I'm going to have sports SDR content. You can see for yourself how bright they get. And we'll have super bright HDR content. But in a brighter room, they are both good. But I will tell you this, the Bravia 7, for some reason, it feels like it's a touch brighter. Now, in filmmaker mode, it does get a little bit brighter, but I haven't tested sports. We're going to find out together. But it's very similar, though. So, I wouldn't say, oh, it's so much brighter. It isn't. What's the better TV for gaming? 55-inch QN90D, PS5 Pro here only. That's what I have running, PS5 Pro. I prefer the Samsung QN90D for all of its gaming options. Specifically, motion, Game Motion Plus. I prefer gaming specifically this game in high quality mode at 4K 30. And at 4K 30, Game Motion Plus Level 2 definitely gives it a slightly more smoother, there's more clarity when if you saw earlier, spinning around, that's what it has, right? And the input lag that is caused by it is no more than 14 milliseconds difference, but you can tell, right? Right now it's on Game Motion Plus Level 2. Sony is in its fastest mode, and they look identical, and that's why it's so good. Normally, if you do that, it adds a bit more input lag, but in this case, it didn't. So that's why I like the QN90D. And I like the other features as well. It has more brightness features. I can get it a lot brighter. I can play with a lot of the settings. The Sony this is going to look good, right? This is their balanced performance mode. You're going to love it, and if you don't like it, well, you're kind of stuck with it, right? So that's just something to think about. But if you're gaming on a mini LED, the QN90D is great, the QN85D is great, and the QN95D is great. All three of those TVs are probably my favorite mini LED TVs for gaming. And I'll tell you right now, I have the S95D behind it, right? Direct view, you can't tell the difference. Now, input lag, yes, the S95D gets 8 milliseconds faster than the QN90D, both of them in their fastest mode. But unless you're PC gaming at 120, you're not going to notice that 8 millisecond difference. What you will notice, though, is off angle. The S95D obviously looks great. On angle, off angle, it looks the same. But on angle, you're not losing much with the QN90D or the Bravia 7. And the S95D, it looks great. in all angles, but the reality is, I think the QN90D is a great compromise for many of you. So yeah, all right. B7 65-inch or 75, Bravia 7, which has the better side angle views. All the side angles, no matter what the size, is the same. So if you want better off-angle viewing, either get an OLED or a Bravia 9. The Bravia 7 and the QN90D, right, they're VA panels. Off-angle, you're going to notice a drop in saturation, a drop in contrast. And if you're off-angle a lot, I say just get an OLED TV. You're sure to get great off-angle viewing because the Bravia 9 is only slightly better off-angle, but at extreme angles, like 45 degrees, they all look bad, right? So get yourself an S90C for $999, 65-inch size. I think it looks great off-angle, on-angle, all angles. But yeah, the size doesn't matter. If it's a VA panel, it doesn't matter what the brand is. They're all going to look worse, with the Bravia 9 probably looking the best. And if you want ADS Pro and you get a Hisense, then it looks the best among all mini LED TVs, off-angle. And hey, Heaven, what's up, what's up? All right, let's move on from gaming real quick. But here we go. All right. Wait, you know what? Here, let me run and attack this one boss before I die. I just can't resist. I have yet to surpass this boss, but I just wanted you guys to see how good this looks. Oops, wrong mode. All right, let's do this. And then the death begins. Oh. All right, now it's time to move on. I couldn't resist. Okay, so we'll move on to Jennifer Gala real quick, and then you guys can see challenging HDR content. So Jennifer Gala's 4000 nit content pushes the TV to the maximum of its capabilities, but in her scenes, you also have 1000 nit content. But these TVs, you'll see, this is where they truly shine because they are flagship TVs. So when you have flagship content, like let's say one day a movie comes out, maybe F1 will be graded to 2000 nits, then you'll know, oh, this TV can do it all, right? So, all right, this is Jennifer's content. All right, let's do this. Okay, here we go. Let's make sure. Ooh, ouch. Yeah, it's a bit bright. Better. Okay. Oh, that's, you know what? I didn't even change the modes, right? I think it's still in game mode, so let's stop that right here. Let's make sure we're in the right modes, everyone. These TV settings. Okay. See, go to video. Professional mode is its most accurate mode. And let's look at the picture settings real quick. Okay, here we go, professional mode. Brightness on the Bravia 7. The default max brightness, of course, contrast 90, and gradation preferred. I don't touch anything else. The local dimming I set to medium, peak luminance on high. Color, let's make sure live color is off. Expert is its most accurate mode. And clarity, I keep that all off because it's high quality content, so we don't need to turn that on, and you're not going to see motion differences. Okay, so that's the Sony. Samsung. it is in game mode. Let's take it off of game mode. All right. Let's get it to filmmaker mode. Okay. All that's default. Max brightness, contrast at 50. Picture clarity off. Local dimming on high. No contrast enhancer. HDR static. Warm 2, it's its most accurate color. Everything else is default, 0, 0. Color booster is off. This is what we're going to play with later, as you'll see, if necessary. Now, these TVs are not calibrated, neither the Sony nor the Samsung. I do have the reference monitor here, so we'll use that later so you guys can see how close they are to reference, but they're actually pretty close. Now, in this scene, maybe not. It feels like one is slightly more bluish than the other. I think the Sony may have, or the Samsung may be a little desaturated there, but we'll have some content that you guys will see better. Okay, let me turn up the exposure. Oh yeah, here's a great one. So let's pause here. All right, tone mapping. This is a super bright scene, obviously. So how do they tone map this scene? What I'm looking at is detail up here, right at the edge, right there. And thank you again, Jennifer Gala, for this video. Now, I think, let me take it one notch up, see what kind of detail we have here. Okay, the tone mapping, the same, right? Exactly the same. However, it feels like the QN90D is a little desaturated. There's not enough red. It feels more yellow. And if you're wondering, wait a minute, maybe it's not accurate. Actually, it is pretty accurate. I already tested against a reference monitor. So this is where the color booster, I think, makes a difference. And normally, you would think they'd have it right without the color booster. But hey, you know what? At least there's a solution without calibrating the TVs. Because many of you don't want to spend any money calibration. So what's a cheap and fast way to get this to catch up to the Sony? So color booster is off. Take it to low, and well, suddenly, what's up with that? You got orange again. And so I think color booster needs to be on as a default, but whatever. So my recommendation is, if you are watching in filmmaker mode and you want accuracy, you got to have the color booster on. And we'll see if it affects it negatively in other scenes. But so far, I prefer color booster set to low on the QN90D because it most closely saturates the color, just like the Bravia 7 and the reference monitor. All right, let's move on. All right, questions you got? Hey, you're fashionably late. Always in fashion, my friend. All right, let's see what questions you got. Oh, I got a super chat, so let me throw this in. Ultraman, sorry I missed your super chat. It's been a busy, busy morning. Hey, FOMO, love your videos. Just wanted to say what's up. Hey, Ultraman, thank you for the love. What's up, my friend? Thank you, thank you. And let me turn up the exposure just a touch. I think it's a little bit too low now. Yeah, much better. Oh, now it's too bright. Actually, this is a great place to stop. This is where, here we go. Okay. This is where the Samsung falls a little bit short of the Sony. Outright full screen brightness. Okay. So as you saw, the Sony is in gradation preferred, right? So it's not in brightness preferred. And the Samsung is in its most accurate mode. So this is as good as it gets. If you want brighter, you have to go to the QN95D. The Sony is accurately bright. It's not over brightening. I mean, this is how it should be. The Samsung is a touch, just a touch behind, but that's why you get the QN95D. And this is where Sony, I think, gave you guys a free gift. The Bravia 9, you think it's brighter? Because it's supposed to be even brighter, right? Because this is a bright scene. Going from the QN90D to the 95D means you're getting a little bit brighter. But going from the Bravia 7 to the Bravia 9, are you getting brighter in this scene? Let's see. Ah, I was waiting for that. So let's turn on the Bravia 9 and see what happens. I know you guys have been waiting for this too. Oh, you know what? Watch me eat crow. Oh, look, the Bravia 9's brighter. All right. Oh, there's my baby, the Bravia 9. Here we go. There we go. And of course, let's turn on the reference monitor. All right. And lo and behold, let me add another label real quick. All right. Okay. Let me lower that a touch. Okay. So, is this amazing? And let's check the settings on both of these TVs. In the meantime, here we go. Okay, here we go. Settings. Picture settings, both in professional mode. Oh, you know what? Just so you guys don't think there's funny business, let's reset the picture settings for professional. So that way we start from default. Reset to default? Yes. All right, we're in professional mode, right? We reset to default. Max. This is all default. Gradation preferred, local dimming medium, peak luminous high. Color is the same because we reset to default, right? I like to take this off. Smooth gradation is off now. Okay. And of course, what's brighter? The only thing brighter is my reference monitor. Let me adjust that so you can see. Okay, so as you can see, the Bravia 9 and the Bravia 7 cannot get as bright as it should. Only the 3110 below is as bright as it needs to be. That's how Jennifer Gala graded it. But the Bravia 7 gets close. I'm sorry, I'm gonna put it up here. I can't handle it being unbalanced like that. Okay, so isn't that amazing? For the price of a Bravia 7, you're getting the brightness of the Bravia 9, whereas the QN90D is being held back because we know the 95D is slightly brighter, basically Bravia 9 level. And this is why I love what Bravia 7 did. And I have to be honest with you, Sony was not happy that Bravia 7 did so well. My last 2 reviews are like, FOMO, are you sure you didn't do something with the Bravia 9? I go, it's only calibrated. Why don't you reset to factory, which you guys saw in the intro. I did, right? So factory reset, all calibration settings are gone. And either I have the golden child Bravia 7 or this is legit. And every one of you who bought the Bravia 7, you're telling me, wow, it's a lot better than I expected. So for HDR watching, this is the TV to get. For gaming, the QN90D, I would prefer. But there's a slight brightness difference if it demands it. That's the key. How often does it demand it, right? Like, other than Jennifer Gala's content, this is brighter than anything that's on Netflix. Anything, like guaranteed. I mean, 5,000 nits demo, please. So, we're gonna go through different scenes, right? Whoops, there we go. Ah, this again. Let's go through that real quick. Ah, here's a great one. You're gonna see some tone mapping magic now. This is, let's start off with 1000 nit tone mapping real quick. Okay. In the meantime, let's see what questions you have. Okay, let's stop right here, my friends. Okay, here we are, 1000 nit content. All 3 TVs look amazing. They look just like the reference monitor, right? Tone mapping is great. Now, what I'm looking at are two things. One, color saturation at this brightness appears to be the same, very similar to the reference monitor, and looking at the details in the cloud right here, right? At 1000 nit, which is literally 99.9% of all content on Netflix, these three TVs will look exactly the same, even the reference monitor. So if you're watching, this is why I tell you guys, if you're watching Netflix and streaming and you're on angle directly, don't worry about OLED or non-OLED. Get the largest cheap TV you could afford, whether it's the QN90D or the QM7, right? You guys all saw my QM8 review. They all look the same on angle. And both TVs, all the TVs are on angle to my camera. 1000 nit, okay, phenomenal. Color saturation, spot on. Let's move on because she's going to regrade this to 2000 nits and we'll see what happens. Oh, look, Jennifer, yay, thank you, Jennifer. Okay, here we are at 2000 nits. Now, what do we lose? The clouds are brighter for sure. And the red is brighter. So if you notice, only the reference monitor is able to get this red up to snuff, right? This is what we talk about color luminance. The color luminance on the reference monitor is definitely brighter. And on the 7 and the 9, slightly brighter than the QN90D. Slightly. Tone mapping of the clouds, still excellent. No complaints. Oh, actually, I have a complaint. I take it back. Right here at 2000 nits, the B9, Bravia 9, and the Bravia 7 falls behind the QN90D in tone mapping. Why is that? Because they're trying to hit 2000 nits, and by hitting 2000 nits up here, they lost some detail. The QN90D refuses to hit 2000 nits. It's maintaining a slightly lower brightness so it doesn't clip. Ironically, my reference monitor is clipping because it's so bright. So either it's not supposed to be there, the detail isn't supposed to be there, and the reference monitor says, hey, I'm just showing what I'm showing you. Or it's so bright that the reference monitor is clipping because it does not tone map, and the Samsung is saying, you know what, this is too much. I'm going to hold back the brightness. But the question is it so dim that it's unwatchable? But to be fair to the other two TVs, there is nothing in this scene on the Q90D that's 2000 nits. It's just slightly brighter than 1000, whereas the Sony and the Bravia 9 is saying this is what 2000 nits look like. You're going to lose some detail, but we're getting you there. And so let's see what happens at 4000 nits. Let's see what the Samsung does. I think it's coming up. Did I miss it? Ah, here we are. 4000 nits. Okay. Yes, slightly more detail on the Samsung. Samsung is slightly brighter than it was before, but again, not as bright as the Sony or the Bravia, either Sony. And at this point, the Sony Bravia 7 and 9 look identical. So in these scenes, I'm like, get the 7 and save money unless you don't like its anti-glare and unless you want deeper black levels. And you'll see in some scenes, the 9 does have deeper blacks. We're going to do some fun stuff with Starfield as well. So, as you can see, this really is only relevant if you're watching Jennifer's content. You will never, ever see these tone mapping issues on any of these TVs on normal streaming because no one goes above 1000 nits. That's why I had to emphasize that. All right, let's go on to, there's this one scene that I wanted to show off, color saturation. Okay. Here we are. $5,000 nits, brightest parts of the scene. And strangely, the Samsung is doing really well in this one. It actually looks a little bit brighter than the Sony's. So, you know what? You win some, you'll lose some, right? What's up with that? So, let me just... Now, isn't that crazy? So in this case, where we saw the Samsung taking a break in the other scene, in this scene, it's like, you know what? I'm going to flex here. Now, it looks like the Sony wants to preserve the blue, So when it's white, they say, ah, screw it. We're going to blow out the white and clip to hell to get you the brightness. But when it's color, they're going to pull back the brightness to preserve some of the color. Whereas Samsung is saying, ah, you know what, it's okay. I'll lose some of the brightness. I'm going to get you more bright. I'm going to lose some color. I'll get you more brightness. And so if I lower my exposure just a touch, there's a bit more blue in the Sonys than on the Samsung. But for impact, I think the QN90D better matches the reference monitor. The reference monitor and the QN90D, I don't know, feels very similar. Now, you're asking, wait, what about black levels, right? Was there something given up? Let's see. Let's take down my exposure, even take up my exposure, max it out, boom, boom. There we go. Where are we now? All right. So, turn up the exposure, and lo and behold, oh, yes, exposure is so high you can see the lights back here. All right. I think you're seeing the reflection off of my key light over there. Close this so you don't blame the Sony for having weird, maybe that a bit. Oh, the anti-glare, or the lack of the anti-glare. I'll move it back in there. Okay. Okay, better. So, the black levels are indistinguishable, really, between all three TVs as well as the reference monitor. How far have we come? Where you have this bright scene matching a reference monitor OLED-like. I am just so impressed by all three TVs. And this is that moment where I say, if you're watching on angle, don't even think about, oh, should I get an OLED? That's a non-issue. Off angle, yes, the OLED will continue to look this great. So let's see, what kind of questions you got now? What about off angle? You know it, Lisa, it's gonna suck. If you watched my reviews recently with the Bravia 7, I did an off angle and you saw it was just not good, right? So yeah, no, it's no bueno, no bueno. Get an OLED. All right, GMAC. My primary use is for sports and Netflix. Which do you prefer? One of the great LEDs in 85 inches or the OLED in 77? Sports, one of the great 85 LEDs in 85 inches is the Bravia 9. We're going to do sports content after this. So that'll answer your question, right? We'll see which one looks best in sports. The Bravia 9 is my favorite TV for bright sports. If you have access to the QN90D, it'll be very close, if not identical, in terms of brightness. To get even brighter, then you'd have to go outside of the big three and go with a 85-inch Hisense U9N, super bright, way brighter than any of the big three at 85 inches, but then you lose some of that tone mapping love that Sony has for its content. But we're going to do, you know, now you mentioned it, we'll look at sports. Netflix all looks the same, don't worry about that. It's the sports in a bright room that they separate themselves. We'll play with standard mode, vivid mode, dynamic mode, and see which one you guys prefer for natural colors, right? We'll look at college football or whatever. All right. A rip to your wallet, my friend. There's always the Walmart special, which is getting better by the year. Okay, let's move on. Can it, well, oh yes, it works behind the curtains. All right, let's see what else we got. Let's move on to the next piece of content. Let me lower this exposure a bit. Oh, here's a great one. Amazing. All these TVs look so good. Can't choose. All right, let's do Starfield next, because you all love a good Starfield on a LCD TV. This is the kryptonite for LCD TVs with local dimming zones, right? How well do you do Starfield? So we're going to see. We will see. And I'm going to have to blast my exposure for this, take it all the way down for you guys. Thank you, Jennifer, again, for creating the Starfield test. I cannot thank you enough. All right, let's turn this all the way up. And we're going to pause as soon. Now, actually, I'm going to pause right here. I think you guys noticed that the Sony has slightly worse blooming, just slightly. But there's a reason for that, and you will see. Okay. Yeah, the QN90D looks great, right? Its blooming control is really good. But the cost, and that's a reflection on the Sony, you guys are wondering. I'll have to get the curtains done real quick. Let me do that right now. Okay. Okay. Oh, you guys can't even see the red yet, so let me play it a bit more. Okay, you can see it now. Okay, so the Sony is the first to show the red dot, right? Well, the reference monitor, but the reference monitor is too small. So as you can see on the Sony, so this is the compromise you talk about. The Sony knows that it's going to bloom a little bit more, but I have it hyper exposed. So you can see that the Sony, when the red appears, there's no blooming around that red. Whereas the QN90D and the Bravia 9 has yet to show that red star, right? And I'll point it out. If you guys can't see it, those who can see it, great. That means YouTube is doing its job. But there's a lot of red, but the brightest ones are here, here, and here. Now, I see clouding on the QN90D, and I see a little bit more clouding on the Sony because it's trying to get the red out. And the Bravia 9 has the least clouding, but the brightest star. So the Bravia 9 wants to control the black uniformity, right? Let me see if I can take my exposure any higher. I think I can. Yeah, this will do the trick. Yeah, I gotta have a pitch black room, otherwise the reflection makes this impossible to do. Oh, yeah, I think you guys can see that way better. Okay, so you see the Sony has more stars, but there is a little bit more clouding on the Sony, but the least clouding is on the Bravia 9, and you see a few stars, whereas there's no stars on the QN90D yet, but you're starting to see the cloud on the QN90D, but there's no stars yet. So let's move on. And then, oh, this is much better, right? You see the Sony? So, and this is where the Sony people are like, wait a minute, how is it possible the Bravia 7 is so good? The cost to be paid is there is more clouding around those stars on the Sony than the 9. On the 9, there's barely any noticeable clouding. Very subtle though. I mean, I'm hyperexposing it, and you guys still aren't going to see it very well. And on the QN90D, this is the problem with Samsung in the past. They are so focused on making it perfect black that the specular highlight suffers, which is fine. So you have options, right? If you're okay with losing some of the specular highlight, go with the 7 or the 9. And I'll show you a scene where there are even more stars, and then you'll start to see the clouding as it develops. Once the stars become more numerous. Here we go. Almost there. You see on the QN90D, the clouding becomes more visible as the stars get brighter, right? I think that's a good place to stop. There we go. Okay, So the best black level is on the Bravia 9. The brightest stars are on the Bravia 7. And the QN90D has the most blooming issue. And this is, if you guys watch a lot of space movies, this is the kryptonite of the QN90D. And the Bravia 7, although not perfect, I think it's that compromise between the 9 and the 90D. So, and this is after their latest firmware update. So let's look at black levels. Actually, you know what? Let me go on to a different one. Oh, here's a good one. See? So the Q90D, you see that? That clouding I'm talking about? And the 7 has it very slight, just very barely noticeable. And the Bravia 9, perfectly. So this is why they have that 22-bit mini LED control. The Bravia 9, you're paying twice as much as the Bravia 7 for that incremental improvement. Knowing that you have the best TV technology out there, that's where it comes into play. So normally, the 90D would be considered a flagship performer for LCD. 3 years ago, no LCD TV would touch what the 90D is doing today. But today, the 90D is a step behind the Bravia 7. And you saw my comparisons with the QM8. The QM8 also does not do as well as the Bravia 7 in this scene, in case you're wondering. But the Bravia 9 really is king in this scene for like that perfect black with no clouding. I mean, it's pretty phenomenal. All right, so let's think. Yeah, you see that clouding on the 90D. But again, how often do you see that stuff, right? Ooh, look at that. Oh, wait. Okay. And this is where you have the black bars on the 7 and the 90D slightly lifted, as well as on the 9. On an OLED, those black bars are black. And that's another difference. Now, you probably will not notice this because this scene is so bright, your eyes will not be able to see it. But because I have it overexposed, you're able to see that. But again, this is not why you would not get these TVs, by the way. Let's see if there's anything else interesting. I think we're good with Starfield test. All right. Change exposure back to normal. Yeah, that was kind of nuts, right? Let's see this one. Here we go. Tone mapping. So this area down here is the brightest part of the scene on the bottom of the pool. And that's where a lot of the TVs will clip to get to that brightness level. Whoops. And all 3 TVs look great. I don't see clipping, and their brightness levels are actually, they're doing pretty good. Yeah, the 90D is keeping up on this one. Yeah, you can say that the 90D is a touch less bright, but it's not, this scene is not why I would not choose the 90D. It's bright enough for sure. Actually, here we go. Let's do this one. Really good tone mapping here. 4,000 nits, brightest part of the scene. I'm going to see, there's nothing to see. Again, they all look great. Turn up the exposure just a touch. And the specular highlights are a match. All three TVs have the same brightness in their specular highlight. I'll stop right here. Yep, all three TVs. Actually, the 90D did it. The 90D is a touch brighter. The Bravia 9 is the brightest, then comes the 90D, then comes the 7. So in this case, the 90D is flexing pretty hard. Let me see if you guys can see that. I mean, they're so close, right? We're talking a difference of probably 50 nits. But yeah, so the 90D isn't always dimmer. It just depends on the scene. So in the larger windows like this, the 90D is fine, actually. And let's look at the black levels. So I'm going to overexpose so you guys can see if one is more lifted than the other. It looks so good, right? The contrast is identical. I'm sure if you take out a meter, the Bravia now will be a touch better, but we're talking contrast ratio difference of what, a few percentage points. Not a reason I would kick any of these TVs out. But look at that. Look at that. So good. All right. Google Eyes. If you're watching sports all the time, who cares? Take the extra money and go bigger. You know what? Let's do sports next. Thank you. I think we've made our point here that the 90D is a pretty good TV compared to the other two. It's priced fair as a price that's similar to the Bravia 7. And if you go to, honestly, if you go to Samsung.com and you're an offer member, the 65-inch is only $1,200. That is irresistible. So I'm telling you guys right now, if you go to Samsung.com, you're a AAA member, educator.edu, military, first responder, this QN90D at the 65-inch size is under $1,200 right now at Samsung.com. Plus, if you ask them for additional bundled discounts in chat, they will drop the price further and throw in a warranty and installation. I mean, Samsung's giving away the farm in this TV and all their TVs if you're an offer member. So it's amazing what they're doing right now. All right. I think we're good here. Let's go on to sports. YouTube TV sports. Let's see what happens. And for sports, I don't think we need a reference monitor. Oh, this baby's heating up. Let's turn that off. Okay, let's see. Ah, let's do it. Futbol. Chewiness. Let's put them in their different modes. So I'm going to look for an actual football scene. And I don't want to get called out by Kellogg's. Oh, you know what? We'll use this. Let's pause here. Okay, let's look at the different modes. I think it's important. So, no one watches sports in filmmaker mode, right? But we do watch sports in dynamic mode. It's the most popular mode for watching sports, actually. Among Samsung owners, they love dynamic mode sports. And the question becomes, how close can the Sony get? And what are the differences? So let me turn up my exposure just a touch. Oh yeah, wow, dynamic mode. Look at that. All right. Boom, vivid mode. Bravia 9 looking good. Hey, whoops. Hey, all right, they all look the same. So those of you who are chocolate aficionados, as you can see, in vivid mode, they'll look great. Arguably, the dynamic mode on the QN90D may be a touch less bright, but bring out a meter and you'll see. So, what's happening here? My TV froze. Ah, there we go. Cooking, look at that. The brightness, identical, and wait, is it me or is the color identical? Samsung, when did you turn your dynamic mode into Sony Vivid? So I used to tell everyone that Sony Vivid is my preference for sports, but in this case, I cannot tell the difference. Like, whoa, look at the skin tones on the 90D. Okay, actually, here we go. Now, this is great for skin tones. Look, I couldn't have done a better job. Okay, here we go. Oh, I'm not fast enough. Okay. All right, skin tones, my friends. Okay, arguably, it's richer skin tones on the Sony than the Samsung, but this looks really good. All right, yeah, I know. Let's get to soccer, football. We're never going to get to the sports. All right, let's look at skin tone of these guys. Dynamic mode on the Samsung Q90D, vivid mode on the Sonys, right? Let's see if there's something that's live sports. Oh, okay. Hockey. Ducks versus the Knights. Stop right here. All right. Oops. Terrible. Okay. Uniformity looks great. Yes, the Sonys are slightly brighter. If you need that level of brightness, the Sonys are slightly brighter, but they all look good. I have to say, the Samsung dynamic mode looks really good. So while we're here, let's compare standard mode. In case you don't like the color and dynamic, which not many do, some. I prefer to watch sports in dynamic only because I like to see the score and everything. But let's go down to standard and see if there's any huge differences, right? So we're now in standard mode. Yes, closer to D65 on the Sony. What about the Samsung? Samsung is still brighter. Okay, so in standard mode, the Samsung is brighter. And this is why I tell Sony owners, the difference in brightness between standard and cinema and filmmaker is not much, right? Like, look at cinema, professional. Wow, professional is really, oh, this is why. Brightness is, duh. Okay, let's take it to max. Because this is SDR. Sorry, guys. All right. So if you're watching professional mode, same here. For sports watching, this is why. I just assumed it's always in max. But even on max, the standard mode is not as bright as the standard mode on the Sonys, right? Is the meter just dim a little? Wait, is standard mode brighter on the Samsung? What the heck? Oh, it's the same brightness. So it's just they just changed the color temperature. On the Samsung, the brightness in dynamic and standard is the same, just a different color temperature. It's nearly identical. Whereas on a Sony, you do drop in brightness between vivid and standard. A touch. Just a touch. It's just cooler. But yeah. I get any of these TVs for sports, so those of you asking, hey, how does it look good? How does it look in sports? Now, I do like the standard on the Samsung because it feels like that contrast pop is there. Yeah, it's in standard mode. So all the TVs are in standard mode now. And I think because it's static image, the Sony dropped down a bit in brightness because that definitely was brighter earlier. Okay, let's go back to see if there's any plays in soccer. Because the rest of the world wants to see how this looks, how it looks. Oh, here we go. Ah, yes, soccer. Futbol. Ah, there's that neon green on the Samsung we love. Okay, so this is the neon green on the Samsung that people either love or hate, right? Yeah, here we go. Let's get something with even more green on it. Okay, and why is the Sony dimming? Oh, maybe because it's on vivid mode. Yeah, power savings not on. Nope, none of that's on. Okay. Motion looks great. Upscaling is identical. Actual, yeah. The QN90D is very bright. So it may not be brighter in certain filmmaker HDR scenes, but for vivid, standard sports, they know how to make a sports TV. So the Samsung definitely is a great TV for sports. Let me see. Let's see tennis. The Sony is in dynamic mode. So well, I know you guys want to play fair. Let's get the Samsung in dynamic mode as well. Dynamic mode. Arguably, the Sonys are a little bit brighter in dynamic mode. So yeah, if you need max brightness, get the Bravia 9 or get the QN95D from Samsung. But otherwise, they're very similar. I mean, the red looks great. But definitely the red on the QN90D is a touch less luminant. Oh, actually, let's stop right here. Okay, so skin tones, right? All right, let's see if giving Samsung a little color boosting love does anything. We talked about color booster. Oh, because color tone is cool. All right, low. Oh, high. Oh, look at that. You put color booster on high, suddenly it's got that saturation that's not exactly like the Sony, but close enough. So you just got to play with your color settings that's available to you. But there is that weird green that's emphasized in Samsung. It's not terrible. Oh yeah, there is green light showing. Oh, this court is definitely very green. It's even reflecting off the players. So this is where the Samsung, I think they're overstating the green right here. If you look at the Sony, it's not as green as the Samsung. This is ridiculously funny. Okay, so let me put in standard to see what, or let me put in filmmaker so I can see what it's supposed to be. Yeah, so the Sony is more consistent on that green. I mean, it's a brighter green, right? And so the Samsung was in filmmaker, and that's what the green is supposed to be. But oh, this is Samsung being Samsung. But of course, I have color booster on. Let me take down color booster. Oh, Samsung, so funny. All right, let's take down your color booster to low. Didn't help. I'm going to leave it here and see what questions you guys got, because I think this kind of like, this is the fun, right? People have fun with Samsung for a reason, and that's the fun we're talking about. B9 delivers the best green, no pun intended. Yeah, you know, I'm going to show you what the filmmaker mode green is supposed to look like, so you guys could compare. And since we already know that the Bravia 7 is about the same brightness, let's see what it's supposed to be. So standard mode is a good compromise. Professional, cinema. Okay, so let's just put in standard so you guys can see. This is standard mode, and this is professional green, right? This is it. Let me see, yeah, max brightness, and let's have fun with this. Let's see if I can get it any brighter. It's ridiculously. This is all default, in case you're wondering. Oh, peak luminance is off. Maybe that's why. Who puts peak luminance to off in like standard SDR mode? That's why it looked dim. Sorry, Sony. Let's make sure. See, once I set everything to default, I forget what it comes out as default. And the standard, let's take peak luminance. So yeah, don't forget to take peak luminance to high in standard mode. Advanced, interesting. It's on medium. All right, let's take this, match it. Medium. Black adjust, medium. So it's interesting that out of the box, they're slightly different, right? Because I reset them earlier. Max brightness, -2, all right. Is it me? There we go. Now I gotta fix it again. Hi. Okay, now they're matched. Okay, standard mode. So these are the color differences, right? Vivid mode is just a brighter version of standard, very watchable, whereas the Samsung Vivid mode is a completely different TV. It's not even the same. So dynamic, standard, eco, movie. So only movie and filmmaker does it share any semblance to accuracy. The minute you go to dynamic, oops, and it's all about having fun. Same with standard, right? Standard. Now I think you could change the color warmth in standard to warm. You cannot do that in dynamic. Dynamic is either cool or standard. Here you can take color temperature down further. And look, it doesn't help at all. Why even have warm too? You're kind of locked into the fluorescent. It doesn't matter what you do, right, in standard mode. I love it. Oh, Samsung being Samsung. Okay, that answers a lot of color questions for you guys, I'm sure. Now, I don't want people yelling at me because the Bravia 7 looks dimmer. It's because it's in standard mode. All right, now it's in vivid mode. All right. Okay. But yeah, it looks like the 9 is a touch brighter, but then maybe because the 7 is aggressively dimming. All right. Okay, let's see. Netflix. Hot and frosty. So, as you can see on Netflix, they all look relatively the same, right? In vivid mode, of course. What am I thinking? Okay, filmmaker mode. I don't think this is safe for children. Let's see. Action. What happened to... Here we go. Nice and dark. We're not ever concerned about bright scenes on Netflix. It's always the dark, moody scenes. Like this. And they look the same. Surprise, surprise. Okay. Very similar. All right, let's see any questions you got, and we'll move on to shadow detail in the movies. I think we'll be done. Big color difference. In sports, but in filmmaker, they're very similar. Like right here. Here we are, Netflix, right? Look at the... Now, it looks like the Bravia 7 and 9 is probably a touch brighter, but it's not a reason why. I mean, I don't even think it is brighter. I think it looks very similar. It's just larger TVs, slightly larger. So let's do dark scenes on movies, like real expensive, big shot movies. Let me switch over to my kaleidoscope. Okay, let's see here. There we go. So as you can see, in the most popular content, let's say the 99%, basic YouTube, streaming, all three TVs look the same. Once you go to the more challenging content, Starfield, bright HDR above 2000 nits, right? Or in this case, movies, let's see what happens. I put together some shadow detail scripts for you guys to see. And I'm going to turn up the exposure so we can talk shadow detail. So we're Dune. I'm going to start off with Dune. This is one that a lot of the lesser TVs had problems with. We're talking TCL and Hisense. But here, I have to commend I'm going to turn on the reference monitor as well, by the way. This is where we don't know who's right. Some are brighter, some aren't. This is where I was very impressed by the Samsung. Nailed it. Very good. Excellent detail. Let's look at the specular highlights in her eyes right here, right? Is it me, or is the Bravia 7 the brightest in specular highlights? It is, isn't it? That Bravia 7 is doing a good job. That specular height in the Bravia 7, very impressive. It's only a touch, but it's there. Got to call it out. Great job. I mean, look at the detail in her hair. All three TVs. And if you're wondering about the lifted blacks, this is easy because it's not a bright scene. There is none, right? There's no lifted blacks here. Look at the black bars. It's OLED-like in these type of scenes. So normally it's the bright scenes where you're going to have the trouble with the lifted blacks. They're doing a great job controlling that. All right, let's go to 1917. This is a new scene. I'm going to pause. Look behind his right shoulder. As she gets closer, it becomes darker and darker. And all three TVs are doing such a good job showing the scene. I mean, this right here, on a lot of TVs over here, the LCD TVs I'm talking about, it's crushed or lifted too much, and all three TVs are matching that reference monitor really well. Let's go on to the next one. This next one is another difficult scene. Super difficult. Right? So there is a lot of shadow detail here that's also on the reference monitor. And a lot of TVs will just crush that out. You're not going to see that detail back there. Excellent. All the TVs are doing a great job right there. There's also a texture detail along the side of the cabinet here, right? And you see it in the reference monitor as well. Excellent. Oh, Game of Thrones, everyone's favorite dark scene fiasco. Looking good. Great, great scene. All three TVs look so similar. This QN90D is doing a phenomenal job matching to the Bravia 7 right here. I mean, you have detail, you have clouds in the back that I can see, the detail in the clouds right here. That's also evident in the reference monitor. So good. This is a super hard scene where she walks, or she gallops, slowly trots out, and you can see her clearly here. A lot of TVs will crush. Most of this is almost black, right? But all three TVs do a great job, and they're not artificially lifting any shadow detail. They match that reference monitor really well. I mean, I guess you could argue maybe the QN90D is a touch brighter, but this is really good though. I mean, the details are all there. And many of you will say, I would like to have the QN90D, please, because I can see even more of the detail. And let's make sure that I didn't do anything funky with the QN90D here, because it's doing better than I expected. Okay, let's look at the settings real quick. Filmmaker mode, correct. Okay. Brightness, 50, contrast, everything is default, local dimming high, tone mapping static, shadow detail 0, yep. Color booster on low, you know that's the way to go. All right, good job. Oop. Yeah, it looks like the Bravia 9 is a touch darker than it should be, which was what I noticed last time before I reset my TV. And I'm comparing this to the reference monitor in this scene. And so the 9 in this scene is slightly darker than reference. The Bravia 7 matches it best. The 90D is slightly brighter. So it is the Goldilocks of shadow detail. I really like it. And I know why the Bravia 9 is doing that. You guys saw how in the Starfield, right? It had near perfect blacks with no clouding. Well, that same algorithm is also making it slightly darker, just slightly. You could change the gamma to help alleviate that, but the reality is this Bravia 7 near shadow detail is a perfect match for the reference monitor, and I think that is very impressive. So, make sure. Okay, let's answer your questions. We're going to wrap up soon, so just let me know if there's any questions you have, and we'll hit it. What you got? Correct. No black bars. Don't you love that? Fullness. Yep. Now, gamma will fix that, but what will gamma do? You know what? Let's play with gamma. It fixes some things and it breaks other things. Why? Because gamma is for bright room watching, not dark room. We're in a dark room, right? This is essentially dark room watching, but I want you guys to see what gamma could do for you guys. Okay. Ooh. Take that down just a touch so you guys can see what I'm doing here. Okay. Just take gamma up a little bit, not too much. Okay, so gamma, there we are. So, right? So if I take gamma brighter, I guess, wow, the Sony's gamma control is actually very good. I can take gamma to 2, and it's a closer match. All right, gamma at 2 in HDR, gamma plus 2 on the Bravia 9. Yeah, plus 2 on the Bravia 9 matches the 7 and the reference monitor. So let's see if there's a price to be paid in the brighter scenes, because now I'm curious. Let's keep on playing through then. Let's try that again. Not bad, actually. Gamma plus 2 is the adjustment. So out of the box, the Bravia 7, gamma 0 is perfect. Out of the box, the Bravia 9, you need to take it up to 2. Because I think it's still doing a good job matching everything. It's not elevating anything too much. Yeah, here's a great balanced scene. Let me check on my YouTube monitor and see if you guys are seeing any differences. Well, well, Jimmy, thank you for reminding me. Let's take it to 2. Problem solved. Bravia 9, gamma 2, plus 2, and there you have it. Okay. Great question, Eddie. I can get the 55-inch S90D for $1,000. Is the Sony Bravia 8 much better picture? No. What the Bravia 8 brings to the table that's unique, and you have to consider this. 1, it is a perfect match for the quad. If you're planning to get a home theater system and you want to add the cinema theater quad, which is what I have, right? This 4 right here. 4 of these babies, right? Placed in front, 2 in front, 2 in front, 2 behind you. There's a phantom center. The Bravia 8 becomes a real center. It matches to that, timbre matched. Then you could use the vocal zoom to get a anchored center channel. That way, if you move off from center, everything stays centered on the TV. Now, without that, any other TV, if you're a little off center, you might hear a little localization on one of the two right or left speakers. So the Bravia 8 offers that, and the 9 and the 8, 9, 7 all offer that. Another thing is with the Bravia 8, out of the box, you have that Sony color. Some people like it. They don't want to twiddle with it. They don't want to get calibrated. Boom, it looks as it does, and you're used to Sony colors. That's what you get. Now, as far as just pure image quality performance, the S90D is a brighter TV. Period. End of story. If you like to watch sports, S90D in dynamic mode will be brighter than the Sony Bravia 8 in vivid mode. That's just how it is. So if you watch a lot of sports, you need it bright, you're in a bright room, get the S90D. Bravia 8 has two things that's unique that the S90D doesn't have: Dolby Vision support, obviously, and it has that new Amazon Prime calibrated mode. I like it a lot. So if you watch Amazon Prime and you like watching native apps, Sony Bravia 8's native Amazon Prime video app is just great. Like, Doom, sports mode, its sports mode is brighter than its own vivid mode, because I don't know what it's doing, but it just looks better, right? So watching Prime Video, let's say you watch it 50% of the time, get the Bravia 8 because it has that unique metadata from the Amazon, and Amazon knows that it's a Bravia 8, and it changes the signal just a touch for the Bravia 8 to look better, and it works. I've tested it on the Bravia 9 and the 7. It looks awesome. Now, S90D doesn't look that much worse, right? It's just those are the unique features of the 8 that makes it a little special. But the S90D is a gamer's dream. I love the S90D. So if you have, well, we saw earlier, I started off with console gaming. It has Game Motion Plus. That is a gaming feature that makes it special. So if you console game Xbox Series X or Nintendo or the PS5, PS5 Pro, it doesn't matter. The S90D gives you more features, gives you more color brightness, or rather more brightness, different types of brightness. The 8 is really fixed on what it does well. Good color science, and that's about it, right? There's not a lot of features for gaming. It works. It has low latency enough. Its low latency matches the S90D, right? So it's not a big deal. So it depends on what you do. Lots of sports and gaming, get the S90D. Cinema watching, you plan to match it with a good soundbar like the quad system, get the Bravia 8. But the picture quality is very close. If you're watching YouTube, Netflix, filmmaker mode, they look the same, right? They're very accurate. So yeah, those are the things that separate them. Otherwise, get the cheaper TV if you don't care about Dolby Vision. All right. Game Motion Plus is amazing. I know. Well, Plasma, let me clap for you. It was you who got me onto Game Motion Plus testing. So if you guys don't know, Plasma TV for gaming, you look at his channel, it's all gaming. And he's deeply in love with the S95C and what Game Motion Plus does. And ever since then, I've been playing, oh, wow, yeah, you're right? Plasma TV, thank you. Game Motion Plus, level 2, Judder all 10, anti-blur 10. It makes the Black Myth Wukong 4K 30 quality mode look phenomenal. Thank you, Plasma TV. All you, buddy. Thank you. That's awesome. And this is a reason to get Samsung, and this, let's conclude real quick. The Samsung QN90D, like other Samsung TVs, QN85D, 95D, S90D, S95D, it is a console gamer's TV. If you're looking for a TV and you're a gamer first, right? Gaming first, get any of those Samsung TVs, because the Game Motion Plus, great for consoles. Now, PC gaming, I mean, we know there's just so many things to work with, either GPU issues. I think LG's C4, G4 will have that figured out before anyone else. So for me, if my focus is PC gaming, I'd probably get a C4 or G4, but it's not, right? PS5, PS5 Pro, I mean, I have to choose a console. I'm just choosing that as a representative of all consoles, in my opinion. I think the Xbox Series X is very similar. So I have the Xbox Series X here, but I'm not going to go through all of them just to compare and go, oh, wait, they look the same. What's the big deal? So for me, console gaming, next gen, update your TV first. So if you have a PS5, don't buy the $700 PS5 Pro like I did. I use it for testing. Take that money and get a better TV, right? Get the LG B4, $999. Get the QN90D on sale, right? Under $1,000. These TVs will make your PS5 look better. If your PS5 is on an old generation TV, LCD TV, Vizio, whatever, right? 6 years old, and it's not an LG C9 at least, upgrade. If it's an LCD TV, really you got to upgrade to at least a TCL QM7, which is $700, right? The TCL QM7, $700, 65-inch TV. It looks great on the PS5 Pro. The input lag is the same as the QN90D. In its fastest mode, QN90D in low latency mode is the same as the QM7. Right there, amazing. What it lacks though is all the Game Motion Plus stuff, but image quality, spot on. Very similar to the QN90D with slightly better HDR brightness. So for $700 and you're on an old TV, get the QM7 would be my recommendation and take it from there. All right. Okay. I swear, it's for work, Michael. You'll get several PlayStation 5 Pros for the upcoming 5090 Titan Ti. I swear, it's for rendering all these videos for you guys. I'm not going to game on it, really. Okay. Last few questions and we'll call it a day. Mini LED, TCL 65-inch. Is this good for TV, for news, sports, movies, and Netflix, please? Yes. QM7 is my editor's choice TV this year. For $700, it is literally the QM8. At anything under 1500 nits, it looks just like the QM8. Above 1500 nits, the QM8 does better rendering, tone mapping, better shadow detail, less blooming, but everything you've listed is under 1500 nits. Therefore, save money, get the QM7. It looks the same. Now, the QM8 has slightly better audio, but it's $700 for 65-inch, and 75-inch is $999. It is phenomenal. So, yes. Mini LED TCL QM7, don't look back at the largest TV you can. I think a 98-inch QM7, $2,300 right now at Best Buy. 98 inches. Wow. We need a live session for OLED ASAP. Okay, Suraj, which OLED TVs are you talking about, right? I have the S95D right now there, and we can answer questions, any questions you want. The G4, I took off the stand because I felt the S95D, the G4 only beats it in sports. It's brighter, but everything else, the S95D beats it, right? I like the gaming image quality better. I like the Game Motion Plus better. I like all the settings that I use. I like it on the S95D better because I noticed that color difference. And ultimately, I think I just don't want to be kicking the G4 around because at its price, it's a bit too expensive. It needs to drop its price. For me, the G4 does really well because of its brightness, but it's undersaturated. I felt like the Panasonic Z95A was better for color and skin tones. And for gaming, the G4 is better. So if you really are a G4 fan, I'm assuming you're a PC gamer. Otherwise, the 5-year warranty is the most important reason to get the G4. So in the USA, we get a 5-year panel warranty plus labor, right? And that, I think, may be the most important reason to get the G4. But if you take that warranty out and the money saved with the price difference between an S90D or S95D and a G4 and get yourself a 5-year warranty from Best Buy or wherever, then it becomes a harder decision. So I think LG really needs to rethink its pricing model. Image quality is so close. I mean, 99% of the time, indistinguishable. And when they are distinguishable at brighter luminances, 1500 nit content and above, the G4 just falls apart. The color luminance is just not very good compared to the S95D when it comes to things above 1000 nits. Gaming is close enough where, okay, I get it, right? But what is your use case, Suraj? And then We'll do a Q&A before Black Friday for sure. And we'll end it with this. As someone who used that S95B as a PC monitor for a couple of years, don't believe the ratings torture test BS. Definitely use case, my friends, right? It's, hey, what's your use case? And I think that's a great way to end it. None of these TVs are perfect. What is your use case? QN90D, if your use case is console gaming 50% of the time and everything else. The Bravia 7, if movies, sports, 50% of the time, and casual gaming. And the Bravia 9, you want the best of the best when it comes to that perfect black levels. You know what you're paying for. You saw the differences. That's what you're getting with the Bravia 9. It is a 7 on steroids. The audio is louder, goes a little bit lower, but at the same volume level, that's say 75 decibels. I'm gonna pull that out of my hat. It's about the same, right? Slightly lower bass, slightly. But at higher volume levels, yes, the Bravia 9 does get louder. But for me, the Bravia 7, oh, and off-angle viewing. The Bravia 9 is phenomenal off-angle. I know we didn't do off-angle here, but I'll tell you right now, the 9 is better than the 7 off-angle, and it's better than the 90D. But there's only so much you could do, right? It's not an OLED. If you go beyond 15 or 20 degrees, then the 9 falls apart like in a cliff, just like all LCD TVs. So there you have it. Let me know what you guys end up shopping for. Hey, let me know in the comments below what TVs you want to compare. I'm getting the Panasonic W series, the mini LED, soon, maybe next week, and we'll bring that up and see how it does against the QN90D and the Bravia 7. But if you can't tell, I'm loving this Bravia 7, so highly recommended. Until next time, my friends, stop the FOMO. Oh, wait. I do not game. Is that a follow-up to a question? I do not game. I just love that. Okay, we'll just end it with that. All right, until next time, my friends. I do not game. Stop the FOMO.